And if they got the opportunity to come and do it with a group, it's so rewarding on so many levels. It's very, it's cathartic. It's you feel part of something. It gives you confidence. It gives you a whole new perspective about your own creativity. And it's very powerful. It's really empowering to each person.
Good day. You're listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is CJMiller, your host, and I have an exciting treat today. I'm going to be talking to a fellow artist traveler, teacher traveler, and we're going to be sharing ideas. I love doing my spiritual art retreats, and Joy Fahey, her name is Joy Fahey. She is an artist and teacher, and she's in Spain, and she does these wonderful retreats. And I had the great benefit of being on one of her podcasts 6 months ago.
Indeed.
And so, yes. So good morning, Joy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Lovely to see you. And I'm very excited to talk to you again because we had such a great conversation before. So
we did. And, and I'll share with my listeners, we kind of missed the time zones and we've been going back and forth, but we're here.
We're here now. You're just starting your day and I'm just kind of winding down. So it's all over the place. And I was talking to someone in Australia yesterday and it's all the other way around. It's very confusing.
It is very confusing. But, I wanted to tell my listeners, we were just talking and I stopped Joy mid-sentence because we're talking about our backgrounds. And she is just now kind of reading parts of my book. And she was talking about her background. So, Joy, I want to share with our listeners that you do wellness art retreats. So you're packaging it as an art wellness retreat, and I'm packaging it as a spiritual artist retreat. But I think we're kind of saying,
I think we're parallel, really, aren't we, on that?
We are.
Well, I've always felt that we're mind, body, spirit, and our creative process helps us express all those feelings. And that's what, to me, art is all about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've come to it, and it's been a strange experience for me from, day one, because art was always something that I loved. But my parents always wanted me to be a dancer. And I was just telling you before, I had a fairly extraordinary upbringing because my father was a psychiatrist and my mother was a psychotherapist.
Wow.
And we actually, well, we lived in a mental hospital until I was, I think, 17 or 18. My father was a superintendent of a very, very big mental institution in Manchester in the UK. So we lived in the grounds of this place, and I mixed all the time with the different patients who were sort of members of the decorating team and the gardener group and the farm and all the rest of it. But conversations around the dinner table were always rather extraordinary about the meaning of this and the reason for that, and Freud and Jung and da-di-da-di-da.
That's wonderful.
It was all rather peculiar when I think about it now. But the determination for my mother, for me to be a dancer, because she'd always wanted to be one, it was enforced on me. And I always loved art. And I remember when I was at school, I won an art competition and I was so thrilled about it and wanted to do more, but I wasn't allowed to. But my older sister, she was allowed to, and she went to art college.
Oh.
And I was very unhappy about that at the time. But I went as a mature student when I was 30. I went to the Manchester School of Art, did my foundation course and started my degree. But very unfortunately, I had a split with my husband and I couldn't continue to finish it. But I gained a tremendous amount from being there for the couple of years that I was there. And really, I've been in Spain now, 24 years. So it's a long time. And it gave me the opportunity to fulfill my goal of painting full time, which I've been doing. But I added to that life coaching, because through the years that I'd been with Cabochon, I was very into Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer and the whole
Yeah.
thing, and coaching. And really, with my background from my parents, I already had a feel for, basically how to, I guess I could say it that way, help people. I've always wanted to be, I've always had this feeling of helping people be themselves and be creative and express themselves and be the best they can be. That's always been my kind of feel. And now I just do it through the painting. I was doing it with life coaching for a while, but I decided to put all my energy into painting. So I've been doing the painting full time without the coaching for about 10 years, I think. So
Well, it's interesting how you have both of these skill sets. And I like to tell my listeners that oftentimes we think our destiny is just one thing, but sometimes it's mixing two things together.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And, I still feel there's so much more I want to learn.
Mm.
I in many respects, I feel as if I've just started from an emotional point of view. And I feel that the now actually really since the lockdown, I'll just add this in. I was teaching in, actual classes and workshops. I was running an art center in a little village not far from here. And then when the COVID thing happened, I thought, what am I going to do? So I started putting all my courses online. So I've now got, I don't know, 30 different courses online.
Wow.
But I was missing the interaction with people because, running my classes, and this, you meet wonderful people and have great conversations, and, you're all sort of singing from the same sheet with your love for art and da-da-da. And I kind of really miss that. So I thought the best way to go forward would be to start the retreats. So I've done 3, and the last one was in May. Next one coming up in September. But I've just done them on painting, the first 2. The third one in May, I decided I'd introduce yoga into it, meditation, which was very successful. And then for the September one, I'll go a bit further and add another ingredient to it, really, if you like. And I love Tai Chi and Qigong. And a lot of people, most of the people that come are my age, which is not under 60. And some people have never done yoga before. And if they haven't, it can be quite intimidating, oh, how am I going to do this? So I thought, well, a softer way is the Tai Chi, because it's so gentle and creative and beautiful. I love it. It's a dance to me. And so I thought, well, we'll introduce that with, again, the meditation and a little bit of yoga and movement, because in the May one, I did quite a lot of different, before we started actually painting, I'd ask people to, with some lovely music, start moving their bodies just to kind of connect, to get involved with their creativity, and then move on to the painting. And it really worked very well. So I kind of wanted to capitalize on that.
I love that. I love that you're talking about that, because I've done yoga for years, and I do yin yoga, which is more of a slow, hold the pose a long time.
Right.
But I have been playing more and more, and I did it on my last retreat, with how we bring our bodies into the process.
Yes.
And how when we move before we paint, or when we move as we paint,
Right. Yes.
and I watched listeners, Joy was so kind, she let me watch her first series or module.
It was my first course that I did, which was Abstract Made Simple. It was breaking down all the elements of abstract painting, basically.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved seeing how we all do similar things but different, right? It's a different way. And one of the things you reminded me of that I haven't remembered for years, I remembered from an early art class, And it seems so simple, but you very much focus on use your whole arm. Use your
Yes.
whole arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just your wrist and hand. And I thought, oh, I need to remember that. And it's also about your arm is attached to your body and your body is in movement. So if you can do it all together.
Move into it. It's beautiful because I did a couple of videos on Zen painting, because that again, it's about the movement. And okay, you just might do a shape with Zen painting, but I wanted to kind of like continue that, to do the painting in the whole kind of feel of moving into it, and you get that kind of authentic feeling about what you're feeling and what you're painting, which is where you come from with what you're doing, and
right,
how special that is. Because there's so many videos and information on find your own voice, find your own style, da da da. We are our own voice and we are our own style if we allow ourselves to come from a space from inside out, rather than think that we have to be painting like somebody else or somebody else. Going from the outside in, it has to come from the inside out.
inside out. I love that.
Yeah, I have to say it's not easy all the time, because your mind gets, oh, I should be doing this and I should be doing that, and is this right, and I'm not sure about this. So you have to kind of build up that confidence of movement and seeing what you produce. And sometimes it's absolutely amazing, and sometimes it's absolutely not.
Yeah, and that's okay.
That's fine.
okay. I was thinking about what you said about Zen painting. Is that something you do on your retreats?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
As a process of starting, you can just do a movement, and then that's, you do it in ink or you can do it in paint. But, the thing with the Zen, it's hugely in ink, and it's just well, I want to kind of take that to go to do a whole painting. So I can try to continue it. So we can't, but it's a wonderful way to begin, because I think so many people are a little bit intimidated by what are they going to do on this paper or this canvas. They don't know where to start. And by starting in that way, it starts.
Yeah, it does. I have a friend of mine. He's coming to my fall retreat. He uses a sumi brush. It's the big,
yeah, exactly.
and he does these wonderful. And he says, "Well, Chris, it's really about what you do before you touch the paper." And he does this whole meditation and grounding and getting into this space where that one movement is just beautiful. The bristles spread out. There's this beautiful swoosh.
Oh, it's delicious, isn't it?
It is delicious. And I'm trying to talk him into doing, and I think he will. He's going to do a demo in my fall retreat, which is fun and that's kind of what's so fun, right, about doing retreats, is you really have the knowledge of everybody coming.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And they all, it's wonderful, because as the group gels, you get to know each person a little more, but you also get to discover, what's going on behind. Most people that I have worked with, and I include myself in this, which I didn't add in my story earlier on, that really started me painting again properly was a horrible, upsetting situation when my first baby died. And that started me on this new journey of painting in my early 20s. I think I was 22. And what I've found with the teaching, and so many people coming, they're all going through their own traumatic, difficult, emotional scenarios, be it they've got divorced, or their husband has died, or they've been seriously ill, or there's all a whole spectrum of emotions that when they start painting, suddenly they have a new perspective and a new way of thinking about their challenges and their difficulties. And it's so releasing. And on the retreat, you kind of get to understand, because everybody's paintings are so completely different. As you know, you can give a directive, but everyone has their, and then when you talk about it and ask them about it and discover, what colors they're using and why is that color more, close to them than that color. And it's wonderful to have those discussions. And then, asking other people in the group, we did a little session where it wasn't a critique. It was, what do you get from that painting?
Right.
And each person gave their take on what they got. And it was fantastic because everyone had a whole different vision about this same painting.
I know. And you know what? I would share with the listeners too is, be careful when you ask people how they feel about one of your paintings, if you're going to let it swerve you, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody has a different, I'll show something that I think is very calming, and someone will say, that makes me mad.
It's remarkable, isn't it? And everyone was astounded by it and shocked because of all these different interpretations of their painting, and they thought it was completely different, like you're saying.
Exactly. And it's funny, I'm doing a show this fall, my love roller coaster. I'm doing a solo show, and each painting is based off of a song. And I painted one it's a kind of a sad song, but the painting looks pretty darn happy. And I'm going with it, Joy, because you know what? That's what came out of me when I hear the song.
Yeah, absolutely. And why not? And that's the magical wonderfulness about painting. I think everyone should paint. And if they got the opportunity to come and do it with a group, it's so rewarding on so many levels. It's very, it's cathartic. It's you feel part of something. It gives you confidence. It gives you a whole new perspective about your own creativity. And it's very powerful. It's really empowering to each person. And, it's wonderful.
It is. I totally agree. I think it's, people, when I came back from my last retreat, some people said, well, how did it go? And I said, it's magical. It is magical. I just feel like you're right. People come in, they're full, they have I call it their baggage, they're carrying their baggage of life.
Absolutely,
and it's all, and as long as I set up an environment where we're all loving and accepting of everybody's issues, people open up, right? They just,
they really do. Yeah. And, no matter where they're from, I had people from, somebody from Canada, 3 from California, 2 from Finland, 1 from Germany. I mean, it was fantastic. So on this one in September, I've still got a few spaces left. So if any of your listeners are, thinking, oh, that would be great, then we can leave the information about.
It's a beautiful retreat, folks. We both, I'm having one in Santa Fe, but we were talking to Joy, and I was looking at the pictures.
You'll have to come to that.
I hope you do. I was looking at the pictures of your retreat, and it is beautiful.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it is a wonderful place. For those of you who don't know Spain, it's southern Spain, in Andalusia, which is a wonderful, wonderful state, really, you'd call it. And I'm near the coast. And the retreat is in a place called Frigiliana, which is a wonderful name, which is half an hour away from Malaga. And Malaga, of course, is famous because of the Picasso Museum there, which is great. But we were sort of like between Malaga and Granada. And Granada is famous for the beautiful Alhambra Palace. And where we're having it, it's called the Little Alhambra, and the gardens have been designed on a very smaller scale to the Alhambra Palace. and it's absolutely beautiful. Huge palm trees and these wonderful little, what would you call them? Ponds, and the fishes, and then this fantastic pool with this beautiful kind of Moroccan gazebo at the end. It's beautiful.
It does. It sounds beautiful. And I have to say, I'll share this with the listeners. Your price is so affordable. They can go check it out, but that is
Yeah.
affordable because you get your room and
Everything.
board, everything.
Yeah.
It's all inclusive. Yeah.
Yeah, all inclusive, and the trip to Granada, because we go to Granada for the day, and to see the palace and to see Granada, and you get a real sort of taste of Spain. And the journey there is absolutely magnificent because you're going through all the mountains, but you've got all the olive groves, and it's lovely. And we have a special day in the evening on the Friday. We go to the beach. We have cocktails and dinner on the beach, which is really nice. We have a paella night, so somebody comes and actually cooks the paella in front of us.
You do it, lady. Yeah, it sounds wonderful.
It's everything. Everything is included, and yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
I mean,
it sounds incredible.
I wanted to make it affordable, because obviously people have got to have the flights as well, and I didn't want to kind of price it out of reach. So yeah, I wanted to kind of put as much in as we possibly could for to get the most from it, basically. So
I know, I some of the people that listen, if you've read my book, you'll know that I premised the whole book on me taking these trips to Santa Fe for retreats, and I would Joy, it was when my son was very young, and I was the primary, the mom, so to speak. And I gave myself 1 week to be alone, without my family, and go paint. And I would go to Santa Fe, and it's very different. There's no ocean, but there's just the smell of cedar and the sky and the mountains. I mean, the mountains are just incredible. And but
can I come tomorrow?
You can. I hope you consider coming.
No, I seriously am. Anyway,
next May, because I do attract a lot of teachers. I think I was telling you, and it's so fun. Even when I went on when I would go years ago, every time you're sitting there, you learn from the teacher, but you also learn from the woman or man next to you, right?
Totally, absolutely. You can probably learn more from them sometimes.
Well, I remember I learned, like, I was introduced to different kinds of paints, different kinds of brushes, favorite paints. Like, some people are like, oh, I love this. There's a blue that comes in Liquitex that's like a powdery blue, Laramie blue kind of. But you'll find, isn't it funny how every paint category, you might find a paint like made by Golden, that one shade of color that you really love from Golden, and one from Holbein, and one from, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you gather your favorites. In time, you start relying on, I love this. I think you mentioned in your tutorial that you love a turquoise teal.
Yeah, I love the teal color. Teal and orange together. Wonderful.
They are. And both those colors they're appropriate for southern Spain and Santa Fe.
And Santa Fe. Well, I think I told you last time, it's my dream to come to Santa Fe. I kind of fantasize about it.
Oh, well, there you go. So it is great. It's a great experience, isn't it, to do.
But I think, having teachers there, I understand that, because, we can, if we're not careful, we can just get stuck in a way of going one way. And I think if we allow ourselves to come and experience a retreat, then it helps us open up to new possibilities as well. We might be very good at doing X, Y, and Z, but maybe it's we've got the opportunity to try A, B, and C.
Right.
And I think the other thing is, we're not on show there. We can just explore ourselves. We're not having to demonstrate and show. We can just actually try something new for ourselves. So for me personally, that's another reason that I would love to come, is just to be free, to, not as a teacher, but just to come as an artist, to see what I can do.
You know, one of the people, Crystal, who comes to my retreat, and she does a little demonstration. I went to one of her classes a couple weeks ago. It was a jelly printing. I don't know if you've ever done jelly
Yeah, I
printing.
love jelly printing.
And
Yeah,
she knows so much about it. But I went as a student. I loved it. You know, I was back there doing all sorts of things. I didn't have to answer to the class. I just listened to her, you know.
Absolutely, yeah, wonderful. And not tell anybody that you're a teacher or this or that.
No, oh no, I did not.
Jane
I was
Joe
just,
here at the
I was
back.
like, what is this? I was saying, is this a brush? What's a brush for? You know?
What did I do with acrylics?
But you know, it was
Absolutely.
so much fun. And
Yeah,
I had such a good time that afternoon. It was like a 4-hour afternoon class, but I was not in charge and I was just there, you know, and it was
yeah,
really.
fantastic.
But I
Yeah,
will tell you, as a teacher, because I was listening to something you said earlier when you talk about watching each other, how you can learn to try something new in your suite. I call it your suite of tools.
yeah,
But as a teacher too, I've realized that I'll go in with a certain way of approaching the canvas, and then I'll see a student, and they'll flip something. You know, maybe and I'm
yeah,
like, oh, you know, that's
yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
It's just a different way of
Exactly.
thinking, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I've, you know, that if one's got the opportunity, try as many as you can. You know, if you feel an affinity to that teacher, go, and if they've got the retreat. And I mean, for me, I would really love to come. And I know a lot of my students would really love to come too, simply because it's a different perspective and it's fresh and it's different. And I mean, you know, just going through your book, I'm thinking, I keep getting ahas, a little bit like you said you'd forgotten about this and all that.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. I'm going, God, you know what? I've forgotten all about that. Right. Aha.
Right. You have these ahas because there's things that you knew. I knew that, use your whole arm, but I had totally forgotten that. And there's times you might want to be uptight, intense, but then
Yeah.
you just learning to choose what you want to do, right? I love to say this, you're at choice. We're always at
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, probably one of the things that I might fall into, which I don't necessarily want to, is focusing too much a bit on skills and techniques. But people do ask, how do I do this? You know,
Right.
how does that work? How do I do color mixing? You know, what is composition all about? What's color values? You know, and I sometimes perhaps, you know, leave behind the spiritual side of it to explain the technical. And I suppose I kind of can get a bit lost in that, you know, not one or the other. And but with the, you know, doing it in person, you've got the opportunity to work through both. So, you know, you can learn the technique, then let go, you know what to do, just see what happens. And it's kind of difficult to do that on a video course.
Yeah, it is. It
You
is.
know, it's a bit hard to do it that way, although I try, but it doesn't come across in the same way. And you haven't got the other people there encouraging you and saying, you know, this is fantastic. Because sadly, I don't know if you find this, so many people undermine themselves and say, oh, you know, this is no good and I don't know what I'm doing and, you know, this is a mess. And I say, listen, go to any gallery. I mean, I'm not sure of all the galleries there, but for me, if I was to go to one of the modern galleries here in Malaga, you see some of the stuff on the wall and you go, oh my God, how could anyone really put that up on a wall? So, you know, everything is acceptable.
It
It's
is. It
an
is.
emotion, you know. So, and it's nice then with the group that you can help people get over that nervousness of saying that this isn't good enough when it is, and it's validated and it's wonderful, you know. So I enjoy that bit too very much. And they change. They, oh, well, maybe it's okay, you know.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking, like, if I were to tell someone what the best thing to bring to a retreat is a, I think, and then I'll let you answer this, but what I think the best thing to bring to a retreat is an open mind,
Totally, you took the words out of my head. I was going to say, I'd stop myself, but yeah, absolutely. An open mind for sure.
You know, and then the second thing is to let go of your ego. Just let it go, because we're all so busy. Like, you know, I remember when I would go to Santa Fe years ago, there was always a couple people in class that she'd give an assignment and you could see them looking at what other people were doing. What are they doing? What are they doing? It doesn't matter what they're doing. Don't look at other people's work, because
no.
yeah, exactly. They would get intimidated. And then you always saw a few people in class that, like you said, they go through their system. They have a system down packed. It makes a good result, and they just follow it each time, right?
It's very hard to break somebody out of that, but you have to find ways of doing it.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, we had nuns, and they would have a ruler, and they would hit your fingers with that ruler. Stop that, Mr. Miller. But you know what? But you wonder, there are people that can't let go of how they approach the recipe. I would call it a recipe that they've come up with. But on a retreat, that's what it's about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let
I mean,
go.
for some of those students who are really kind of determined to continue doing it their way, I say, okay, right, put your right hand behind your back and you're only painting with your left hand.
Oh,
yeah, because you know, or the other way around if they're left-handed, but their non-dominant hand, right? You're only going to paint with that for an hour or whatever.
That's a good idea.
And
Yeah.
it obviously it changes the brain waves, and suddenly they can discover that they can do different shapes, different movements that can be absolutely fabulous. They don't realize. So yeah, that kind of knocks that bit on
Is that the ruler coming down on them?
Yes.
You know, it's funny. I remembered something in your tutorial that I did yesterday that helps this too, and I liked it. And it's an expansion of something I teach, but I like how you talked about it. You had people grid and do a painting. You were talking about color, and you'd say,
Yeah.
do a painting with your favorite colors. But then this is the one I love. Do one with the colors you hate.
Yes.
And I love that, because that was one of Virginia Cobb's lessons. She would have you come in and she'd say, I want you to pick the color that you hate the most. And that's what you're going to paint with today.
And you can add white to it, you can add black to it, but you've got to paint with that color.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
It is. It really is, because you can't help but go, oh, I want to use this other color. And the emotion one is interesting too, and the colors that you use for your emotions naturally,
right?
And how that can you know, really affect a painting. And it's funny that you say about the painting that you felt sad about but has come out really happy.
Right.
And I do think that does happen a lot, that we think we're unhappy, but actually underneath there's something going, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. We think we're happy and actually underneath we're feeling quite sad.
Sad. Well, you know, it's interesting. I think that the experience of feeling the emotion, even if it's a sad one, and letting it out, transmutes it into happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Yeah,
you're letting it out. I'm mad about something, but I'm letting it out. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's almost like you transmute.
And then it moves forward. Something changes, and you know, it's released, and you start thinking about, maybe I'm not so mad about it. Maybe I can understand what was going on, and you know, you start thinking about it differently. That changes the whole energy of the whole situation, not only yourself, but you know, if you're in a situation with somebody else, it can change the whole dynamic. And you know, the thing is resolved. And yeah, all through painting. Isn't it amazing? We're so lucky.
We are lucky. It is. There's a lot of power behind creativity and painting.
Yeah.
And
so Fantastic. Well,
So
yeah, I'm excited about September, and hopefully we'll have a really nice group. It's not a big group. The maximum is 10 people. So I don't want it to be bigger than that. Probably, 8 or 9 is fine, but 10. If everyone's chomping at the bit to come, then we
well,
can do 10. But
I two things I want to share with the listeners. One is, maybe someday Joy and I will be doing a retreat together because
I've been thinking so much about that, because I'm thinking how we could pull something really fantastic off together of what we've got to offer.
right. So we'll just tease you with that in the future.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you to check out the link in the bio and go to her retreat site. How many did you say? There's four openings or 3?
There's 4 openings.
4. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. I seriously was like, maybe I should be going to Spain.
Yeah. Well, if I come to Santa Fe in May, you should come to next year. You should come to Spain in September, October next year.
Oh, I would do that.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, obviously I'm going to share the Santa Fe one. You've just started launching that, haven't you?
Yes, it's on my
There's
website. People can see the pictures. It's a beautiful studio space looking at the mountains while you paint. Big windows. We're going to have, we'll have we'll sit out with a fire. There's a labyrinth on the property. We're going to do a meditative labyrinth.
That's fantastic.
So and I love my favorite part about Santa Fe is the sunsets. Santa Fe has the most incredible sunsets. And
oh, wow.
so sitting out with a glass of wine and talking and watching the sun go down is just really nice.
Well, if it's not next year, it will be sometime, but I'll see you make it next year.
It is great. So anyway, is there anything else you want to share while we wind down this conversation about your retreats?
Well, I guess really to, our shared excitement, I think people must be picking up on that in our conversation. And go and check it out, the website. I've got a lovely video. Did you see it of the highlights of May?
Oh, it's beautiful. I'm telling you.
It's really lovely. And the music's cool to it as well. But it gives you a lovely idea about the whole week and the place and what we do. And so if it's of interest, that was fantastic.
Well, those 4 places, they're sold. I'm telling. We're just visualizing they're sold because it's quite the deal. And here in Dallas, if anybody's listening from Dallas, it's so hot and horrible. But anywhere, I would rather be near the ocean in Spain than where I am right now.
Well, we have that too. We have that afternoon at the sea as well, which is great. So we do a bit of both, into the beautiful Andalusia mountains and then onto the beach. So it's a nice contrast. But it's just fantastic to talk to you, Chris. I really enjoy it. I hope we're going to do more.
I think we will.
And thank you so much for the opportunity of talking to you today. Right. Wonderful.
Well, thanks for being on the show. Okay, listeners, thanks for following the Spiritual Artist Podcast. I encourage you to share this with your friends. If you know someone, if you have a good friend that you want to go on a trip with, this is now, you can go up there in the podcast channel, and under those 3 little black dots, you can share this episode with your good friend and say, hey, you know what? Hey, Sylvia, we need to go to Spain.
And actually, I've got a special deal if people come together, which they'll see on the site. So if 2 people to come together, it's less. If 3 people to come together, it's less. Oh,
well, that's even better.
Because it's lovely to come with a friend. I forgot to mention that.
It is. It's great to go with a friend.
Yeah.
Or your spouse. Or a friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I encourage you all to follow the Spiritual Artist Podcast, and I will see you at the next release, the next podcast I have out, and keep following me on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast channel. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.